Today on the Virginia Investor Podcast, we sit down with Betsy Kline, one of the boldest voices reshaping the house flipping community and Richmond real estate. She went from no AC and sleeping on tile floors to earning national recognition in the New York Times. Now leading Kline Design, Betsy is pushing into development, boutique stays, and bigger visions for the city. Today, we get to learn not just about what her investment strategies and insight, but also about Betsy's journey, mindset, and what makes her so uniquely successful. I am fired up for this episode. The first time, as we were talking before we started recording, the first time that I've interviewed anyone that I have not met before this podcast. So I get to learn all about you and your story. Betsy, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited as well.
I am excited. Let's jump into it. So you have done some just really unique, outstanding things, and I want to learn sort of where did that start? How did that start? Take us back to your childhood growing up. What was that like for you?
So I was a tomboy growing up. I was always wanting to wear shorts, basketball shorts, and do whatever the guys were doing. I did grow out of that somewhat, but I think being in the construction is fun for me because every day kind of feels like I'm getting to play. Growing up, my dad was very handy. Like, he can build cabinets, and I mean really well. You would never know. Like, he's been really good at that stuff. And so we always took trips to Lowe's, Home Depot, and I loved riding around on the carts and skateboarding through the stores, playing hide and go seek. So, and one of my other favorite places to go with him was the dump.
Awesome.
I just love that.
What did your dad do for a living? Was he in construction?
No, he's an engineer, software engineer. So yeah, he's on a computer all day. He's actually retiring this month. And yeah, so that was kind of his hobby. Like, he always had a big setup in the garage, big saw, you know, that music blaring. I'm riding around my scooter.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you have any siblings?
Yeah, I have a younger brother.
Okay, cool. What was school like for you? Were you into education and getting good grades, or were you just kind of like not interested?
So I actually, my mom and dad are extremely smart. I was adopted, and so my mom was like valedictorian of her high school. You know, my dad's obviously smart as well, and I am smart, but it doesn't come naturally, and school is not my thing at all. So growing up, my mom was very like strict. Like, it was so hard for me not to get all A's. Like, you know, I almost got a C in a class. That was like the end of the world. Well, she actually had a stroke when I was in 8th grade. So when I lost that, like, she's still alive and well, but that, you know, took a long time to recover, and it was different. When I lost that, like, really strictness, like, that's when school was just not going as well. So school was tough.
Did you started probably like hanging out in the wrong crowds, or just like
yeah,
not
for
really
a little,
studying?
A little bit for that, definitely. I ended up getting tested for ADHD in high school, but I just truly, because my mom was such a big support and pusher, I don't think I knew or learned the like skills of like, oh, I need to like go home and do my homework right away. Like, I just didn't care.
Right.
Like when someone was pushing me to do it, I did it, but it was always a battle. So when it became up to my own like vices, I was just like, this, whatever. But I always knew like everything would work out.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But that's cool that she provided that structure.
Yeah.
And then it probably was just a little bit too young for you to really grasp how important that structure was, and then you were free after that.
Right. Yeah. 8th grade, like, that's kind of, it was a big turning point. So
high school, or did you graduate high school?
I did graduate high school, and I did go to college. I dropped out of college, but
how soon?
I was I finished my sophomore year. I was at Ole Miss.
Oh, cool.
I think I failed a lot of my sophomore year, and my dad said, if you're going out of state, you need to graduate in 4 years.
Sure.
So I crunched all the numbers, did all the credits, and I was like, yeah, there's no way I'm graduating in 4 years at this point.
Okay, so did you grow up in Richmond?
Yes.
Or in the Central Virginia area?
Yes.
Cool. And then, so what attracted you to Ole Miss?
I had a friend who went. I liked the colors. I knew it was easy to get in. I could tell they partied. You know, all the right reasons.
Right. Cool. Yeah, all the right reasons. Awesome.
I visited and was like, this is the best thing ever.
Yeah, that's great. So Ole Miss, obviously you're having a good time, but you're not really focused on the education piece of it. I dropped out of college too. You lasted longer than I did.
Really?
I lasted, I can't remember exactly if I lasted a full year, but I think I did one semester. That's how
Where did you
passionate
go?
I was. VCU.
Okay.
And I had get too deep into it, but I had some stuff come up later years of high school that made me just completely like not care about education and just not want to do anything related to school or anything like that. And so there were reasons that I could have went to different colleges. It would have been nothing too special, but could have still went to different colleges, but I wanted to stay close to home. And so that drove me to VCU, but then being at VCU when everyone was out doing stuff and like, in my opinion, like furthering their future and stuff like that, I was at VCU, not passionate about school. And like, I would show up, drive to the parking garage park and like sleep through the class and just like drive home. And like,
did you, when you say everyone else was doing stuff, you felt like people were surpassing you, were you hanging out with like older people? Because personally, like, I feel like the crowds I was with at that time, like everything was paid for, our parents were helping out. It didn't feel like, I wasn't even worried about really what I was going to do.
Yeah, so that was, I was hanging out not necessarily with older people my age, but I think most of them had college paid for, and they didn't have some of the similar challenges I had later in high school. So then when they, not to say they didn't have their own challenges or anything that, but they ended up going to, you know, whatever college they had always wanted to go to, and they were doing really well and focused on school. They were also partying and stuff like that, but they were good enough to like still get good grades and focus on that. But what scared me about it was everyone went to college, speaking of my friend group, to as like a business administration degree. And that terrified me, because I was like, if everyone is doing that, then what's going to make me different or allow me to get ahead? And so when I went to VCU, I was like, didn't know what I was doing, didn't have any like real plans. So I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do what everyone. So I dropped out and then moved to Florida. But
yeah, I do think it's so crazy too that it's so young. We have to pick this degree, and then like people switch it. I think there's so much more about like real life experiences than just sitting in a classroom, because you're learning nothing that you'll ever apply to that job. Right. Typically. Yeah. It's unless you're maybe like a doctor, you might be learning some stuff.
There's or an engineer or something like that. Like there are certain things.
But I think entrepreneurship, I just don't think it's necessary.
Right. And I think I sort of was just ready to get to work and just go do my thing. But yeah, I think college has its place as far as like social experiences. But as far as education outside of the doctor and attorney and those things, like there's probably better ways to get that education.
Yeah, agree.
But so you went all the way to Ole Miss and then you came all the way back. What was that like coming back?
I definitely had dreams for a long time. I'd wake up like dreaming I was still there. I really missed it. But coming back, I mean, I still went to community college. My dad was adamant that I get a degree. He was like, if you do not get a degree, you won't do anything in life. And like, this was actually like a really bad like point for us. So when I say, I can't think of the right word, but I knew, like, I was like, Dad, I don't know what I'm going to do, but like, I will be successful. Like, I promise. Like, I needed a break or something. Like, I just couldn't go sit in another classroom. And he was like, you know, if you take a break, you're never going to go back. And I was lucky, like I said, that my education was going to be paid for, and then I had someone like pushing me, but it just like wasn't working out. I was drinking a lot because I was so like miserable. Like, I knew I wasn't impressing my parents, but I also knew like I was just at a tough spot. And so I ended up dropping out, and like fully at that point, like I wasn't in community college, and he was like, okay, your bills are 100% your responsibility. Like, I will not help with like rent or like cars or anything like that. And so I was like, okay, cool. Like, I was a full-time bartender. I was like, no worries, I got this. But when I was a bartender, I would go to work every day. I always had a sales goal, which like bartenders don't have sales goals. I was obsessed with the numbers, and I always like every day I was like, oh my gosh, today I'm probably gonna like meet someone who they want me to do the sales position. Like, I always thought like I was gonna meet someone. I was probably coming in hungover, but I just like always had this mindset for more. And so in bartending is when I got into real estate, and you know, that took me to here.
Did you have any specific, well, I guess you said you didn't, but like there was no specific ambition while you were at college as far as like what you're going to do for your career, and then when you got out you were still trying to figure it out, right? Like bartending.
I mean, I was told like I think I took marketing communications. I don't even know what that means. So I was like, oh, that kind of sounds good. Like, I like to communicate. Like, I just didn't even know what that means. And I remember growing up, like my parents and family said like you'd be good at sales, and so I would be interested in things here and there, but I really didn't know what. I just knew I was going to be successful, and I hope,
Where did that feeling come from? Like,
I don't know.
because the world teaches you to go just get a job and then work your way up the ladder. Like, but your mindset sounds very similar to mine, where like I knew I was going to do something successful, but I didn't feel like the normal route was for me. Like I just, for whatever reason, it just didn't fit.
Yeah.
And it seems like sort of similar to you, where you're like, you knew you were going to be successful, but you had really like no idea how that was going to happen. You just knew you were going to make it happen. Where do you think that comes from? Where do you think that feeling of like knowing that you're going to be, because you're probably feeling like, I'm guessing that when you mean you're going to be successful, you're going to be like uniquely successful, not like go get a corporate job and work your way up the ladder. Like it was going to be something different. Do you know where that stems from?
I don't know where that stems from. I can remember like different times of just feeling like that. I think I've had a lot of luck in my life. Like I've had a lot of luck, and I've been able to like come out of situations that were pretty bad. I don't know. I overall, even like facing challenges and stuff, I think I have a pretty positive mindset, and I just think like anything's possible. I don't know where that necessarily stems from.
Did you play sports growing up?
I did. I was a swimmer.
Swimmer?
And I did soccer, and then like in high school I just dilly-dallied here and there. Yeah. I was like a pro gym.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so bartending. Where do we go from there? So you said you found real estate through bartending. Is that accurate? How did that work out?
So there was a couple people at the bar who did real estate. I took off a week and I watched Selling Sunset, and I was like, wow, this is the dream. And I signed up for a course. I think I had like $450 left in my bank account. And so I was like, okay, cool, I'll do this. I took the course and I was like, this is the worst thing ever. I mean, what am I learning? Like back in a classroom, I just hated it. And I was like, I'm obviously not going to do this career. I thought they were going to show me how to like open doors. Like, here's what we say. That was not it. And so I took the test and passed the first time, luckily. And so I just like, okay, let me just go down this adventure. It was definitely difficult at first. Like the first 6 months, I didn't make money. And so I had an ex at the time, and he helped facilitate. Like I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go back into bartending. Like I've always had my own money. I've always worked. And he was like, no, stay with this. And so I stayed with that. And when we split, I actually went kind of backwards a little bit. Because I kind of, when we were together, dropped the like partying lifestyle, because I just, from college and then into bartending, I was a professional partier. And so I kind of cleaned that act up a little bit when I got into real estate. And when we split up, I went to New Orleans and partied for 6 months. And that's when I actually landed in rehab.
Why New Orleans? What took you there?
I always actually wanted to live in New Orleans or New York for a year, and with my ex's job, he was not able to do that. So I think like when we split, it was like, okay, this is the time. Like I need to go, live out my dream.
Was this like you were only going to stay for a year? Was that the plan?
Yeah, I signed a year lease and left at 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah, it was too much.
Well, I bought a house, and then I visited New Orleans with my friends, and I had a couple of tenants that I moved into the house with me to help pay my rent. And when I was there, I signed a lease, and I was like, I'm just going to move here. So I had this new house back in Richmond.
Yeah.
And I think I was kind of like, and I've learned this, but I think I was just kind of like running from the feelings. Like growing up, I always felt like I needed to be tough, and like nothing would bother me. Like if someone passed away or like, I just would like stonewall, and like that's how I was raised. And so that's what I did with this. Like I was like, of course I don't care. Everything's fine. Like, I've split with this person, and like we sold this real estate and whatever, like I'm 100% fine. But I think I was just like running from facing that. And so that's, I went to New Orleans and used drugs and alcohol for 6 months. And it was time for me to go.
What was your relationship with your parents at this point? Like, was that soured because of the education piece?
No. So at this point, like once they saw that once I quit that, like we just came to agreement. Like my dad was like, you're miserable. Like I can see that. Like you're not yourself. Like, you have to make it now. Like this is up to you. So our relationship was fine. Like I think it took him a while to come to terms with that, and we struggled during the time of me continuing to try community college. But once we came to that agreement, it was fine. And I'm really thankful for that, because I think a lot of like families and relationships hold on to something that is just not for that person, and it was going to a bad path. And so my dad's always been there for me. Yeah,
that's awesome to hear, because it absolutely, like your dad could have stood his ground and been like, you're a disappointment, and then it could have always been that way, which it doesn't have to be. Like it doesn't have to be. Things work out. I am lucky that when I wanted to drop out of college and move to Orlando when I was 19 years old, my dad was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to work on motorcycles. And he was just like, cool. Like, let's look into it, And so it was always like, how can we help support your goal? It was never like you're going to fail, where I had a lot of people in my life at the time tell me I was going to fail and I was a big idiot.
Yeah.
But my dad was like the one person who was like, yeah, like, let's go look into this. We can try this out if this is what you really want to do.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. Like, this sounds very obvious, but like how important what parents say to us and like how they act to us even as adults in our late teens or early 20s, you know, it's still so important that they support us. And it's good that like your dad sort of held you accountable and forced you to grow up a little bit, but also like still was there for you. So when you moved or I should say when you visited an extended stay in New Orleans, was the drugs and alcohol, obviously it was like running from some feelings, but was it like trying to get in with the crowd that you met down there or something? Like, did you have a bartending job or something?
Yeah, I was always like in this time, always like trying to get a job. I was always like, maybe I'll work at this bar. I had signed up for a real estate course. It was in person because I do better in person. Online, I just wouldn't do it. Well, I wasn't going to class, so that didn't work out. Then I was like, well, I'll do the investment thing down here. So I was always kind of actively pursuing something, but nothing really panned out.
Yeah. How did you learn about the investment side of it?
Oh, so I had actually went to a Richmond Ring event before going to New Orleans. Like right at the tail end of that. Yeah. And I heard Adam and Amanda New talk, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. Like, this is so cool. I always knew, like, so when I represented buyers and sellers for a few years, and during that time, I knew some people who flipped houses, and I was like, gosh, if I could do all the selections, like, if I could run a project, that would be the coolest thing ever. But I had no clue how to get the money. I had no clue how to do anything. Right. I just assumed I would have to be with someone who had a W-2 job that had, you know, and then also have all this cash. Like, that was what I really thought. And so, yeah, once I came back from New Orleans, went to rehab, all that, I tried to go right back into what I knew, which was representing buyers and sellers. That was obviously hard. You can't go party for a year and assume everyone's going to want you to work for them. Yeah. And so, and the market had changed. And so I started working for a friend, helping her. I was like literally helping her with her house, nannying. And I was pretty miserable. I wasn't making enough I could pay my mortgage, but like, I was like, okay, the electric's going to have to wait. And so that is when I had one deal that I had a commission on, and I was like, okay, I can spend this to catch up on my bills and like fix this AC, or I can like do it I can get a flip and change what I've been doing. I
want to cover some of the coming out of that adversity, because there may be people who are listening to this that are in a dark spot and they're trying to figure out how to get started again. Yeah. And I love talking to successful people that have been in dark places and then learn how to get out of those places. Yeah. I think if we can learn how to do that, then a lot of people would be more successful, and they just don't dwell in that area. So when you were going through rehab or after rehab or somewhere in that time frame, did you ever think in your head that like, this is rock bottom and my life is not going the way it's supposed to go, and either my life is over, there's no future, or did you just know there was a future, you just need to get past this stage?
So even during the rehab time, I was like working on building a business. So, awesome. And I don't know if that was, you know, maybe it was some sort of a distraction, but I think I've literally always worked. So I picked up like a couple of shifts at like a flower shop. Like I just was doing, and I'm, you know, negotiating my pay there, trying to build up their structure here. And I started this like picnic business at the beach. So I was still, I mean, I probably made a few $100s over the course of 3 months. So it wasn't like, but I was still like active in things, whereas like I really couldn't leave the house outside of that. I was in pretty rough shape. I had to like relearn how to be in society. I couldn't go to restaurants for like 3 months. Like I was really messed up. And
did you still have your same network of people around you, or did you have to find a whole new network?
When I was in high school, I had a really great group of friends. I basically burned all of that through partying in college. And so that entire friend group was gone. The group of friends that I created in adulthood actually did stick with me through this.
Interesting. And they were good people to be around, like not like the wrong crowd. Yes, like they were like, like they were like so supportive. Like they wanted to like, you know, get together the second I was like awesome. Home. Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. Because I wasn't, you know, sometimes you got to get rid of your whole friend group and just start over by yourself. And
there's definitely people that, you know, I had to not hang out with because of their choices. But
different values at that time and stuff like that. That's interesting. So what I take away from that is like, you always had a purpose. You didn't lose sight of a purpose. So even though you were going through this really hard time, you still were going to start that business and you were still going to be successful. You just still hadn't figured it out like exactly how that was going to happen yet.
Yeah.
I think it's important that like we when we go through these hard times, we keep this vision of what's ahead instead of like just thinking about the day to day. And that's kind of when you just go deeper and deeper into it. But when you're trying to build something, you have a reason to wake up the next morning. You have the reason to like go to the next meeting or go to the next event or something like that.
Yeah.
Even if it's wildly different socially and like hard to get out in those type of areas or anything like that. Take me to, so now you had just mentioned it where you're helping your friend, you were starting to make some money and you were back into real estate at this point?
Yeah, it was back into real estate at this point. And so I was basically working a 9-to-5. She was also in real estate. So it was like a mix of real estate, but it really wasn't where I wanted to be. And so, yeah, that is when I remembered this meeting that I went to, Ring. And so I was like, I know that there's a way people get money and do this. And so I called my friend who took me to that meeting like 2 years ago. And I was like, do you know any hard money lenders? And he was like, yeah. And I don't know how. I try to play this call back because a lot of people come to me and, you know, they either want to partner on something or they have a lot of advice. And I'm like, how did I do this by myself? I really didn't know what I was doing. First, I literally went to their website. I looked at whatever it said and I called them and just asked the questions I knew. I know looking back, I didn't fully understand the math, but I understood it enough where I just went home. It was like a Friday night and I just like got my snacks, went in bed and just went on the MLS until I found a deal.
That's awesome.
And it happened really quickly. Like when I made my mind up, I was like, this is what I'm doing and I'm doing it. And I remember I called my dad and he was like, people don't make money doing that. Like you can't do this. Like what are you, he's probably like, please don't waste the only money you have right now. Like you're about to be. Because
you're risking it.
Right. You're about to be out of the position you're in. You know, they care. They don't want you to, parents don't want to see you take that kind of risk. So.
Man, that's awesome. So you found your first deal on the MLS?
Yes.
And you had been talking to investors and hanging out with like the Ring network to some degree.
Once, yeah.
It seemed like the last thing you figured out was that the finance aspect of it?
Yeah, I think that was the key part that really like made me just pull the trigger. Yeah. Like I knew that there was a way to do it. I didn't understand how. I did know though, I know real estate, I know the numbers. And so it felt like a very safe bet for me. Like there's no fear in it. I'm looking at data that says if the house looks like this, it'll sell in this amount of days for this price. To me, that's the safest bet you can make. Yeah,
that's awesome. So you get your first deal. It's under contract. You use hard money for this?
Correct, yeah.
And this is like legit hard money, not like a local person that's doing private money? Is this like a company that you're working with?
Yeah, they're based out of Lynchburg. And they're pretty big.
Okay,
so
cool.
I think so. I think it's legit hard money.
Right, yeah. Okay, cool. So walk us through this first deal because you don't have a whole lot of capital.
Yeah.
This is a very big risk for you, but you're just saying, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be successful. What did that first deal look like? What did it feel like?
So I offered exactly what I could. And I, as I'm trying to get into bigger things right now, I'm trying to remind myself of this mindset because I was so like, if they don't take what I can do, I can't do it. Like, this is what I have, take it or leave it. Yep. And I think as we get into this further, you sometimes are like, well, I could give a little, I could put 5,000 here or whatever. So anyway, back to this mindset. So I offered, I think the deal was like a $500 EMD, 10-day as-is inspection period. I think I offered like $50K under ask. And during that 10-day as-is period, I brought out everyone I knew. Like, if you have ever held a paintbrush, you were out there because I was like, I need quotes. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And then I think I might have even extended that period. I can't remember. But I know that I went back after the inspection. I was like, I need another $15K off. And they said yes. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is probably like, of course that feeling of like, well, what if something worse is wrong? Like, why are they taking all this money off? And so I remember like, I'm telling my lenders are very just like business. Like, they're just like, okay, cool. And I'm like, well, like you want to talk about it? Like, what do you think? And they're just like, yeah, we'll adjust the paperwork like later. Right. And I'm like, well, I'm freaking out. Right. And so I think, it was a 3-week close. Like, it was pretty quick. And like the day before closing, my contractor was like MIA. So I extend closing a day because I'm like, oh my God, where's the contractor? And it was fine. So they start the next day. We get this project done in 30 days, which is probably the quickest to date. Yeah. Thank God. Because, if your first one goes bad, it's pretty hard. So my first one went great. We were done quick. It was in Petersburg. I'd never been to Petersburg ever. I'm like, I don't even, I've heard about it, but whatever. Right. And so it was on the market 2 weeks. And I think we got like almost like 1 to 2 were like no showings. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I just do a $15K price drop. Like, I'm like, I got to get this thing sold. At this point, I lived all summer without AC, which was just brutal. And at this point, like, it's getting cold. It's like, I think I bought this September. So, you know, it was on the market beginning of October. And so it's like mid-October. So I'm like, I got to get some heat. Yeah. So I remember one of my friends gave me like a personal heater. Like, that's what I had. And so I drop at $15K and it immediately sells. So it was like a maybe 45-day closing and it sold end of November. But yeah, I did what I could in that. I staged myself. I took everything out of my house with my best friend. She also helped me, emptied her house, and we just used what we had.
I assume it was a pretty profitable deal. Like, did it get you back on your feet, or did it get you enough? Like, what did it feel like after that closed?
Yeah, I got a check for, I think, $50,000. I think profit on that was $35,000. So yeah, I felt great. I was like, oh, I can do anything now.
That's awesome.
Which it wasn't, looking back, it's not a crazy amount, but I immediately bought 2 more properties. Like, I was like, okay, we're going to get 2 now.
That's insane. I mean, just to take that risk and to think that you can go buy a house, flip a house with your capital position that you were in.
Yeah.
And just to think that that was possible or realistic or something you should do, but you were just like, nah, like I'm going to do it. This is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to be successful. And then you made it work. What would have, was there any moment during the flip where you were like, this might not work?
No, but I will say, I always like say like that during that, I almost like felt like blackout because I was so like just focused. Like it had to work. I would wake up like every day at 5 and like run and like listen to these podcasts. And I'm like I was probably the best version of me because I was so motivated for it to work. But it was hard. Like, I remember 1 month at the very end, I couldn't pay my mortgage because I put everything into this. So I just didn't pay my mortgage. And I remember like being like, this is cool, right? Like, I'm going to pay. I mean, they don't come after you. I just figured they don't come after you that quick. That's what I did on everything. Like, I couldn't pay anything.
Wow.
Yeah. But I was like, it will work. I knew it would sell. No, I never thought that it wouldn't work.
Right.
To be honest.
That's awesome. Yeah. I actually, one of the questions that I had prepared was like, what would you have done if it didn't work? But I literally was like, I'm not going to ask that question because just in talking to you, the answer is like, it's going to work.
Yeah.
It will work.
Yeah.
So then you bought 2 houses after that. You jumped right back into 2 more.
Yeah.
I guess at this point, like, you have your hard money, like you can go back to them.
Yep.
You have your construction people. Either of these 2 houses, when you started thinking more about design, like getting a little bit bolder in what you were doing.
Yeah, so even in my first house, I did like a green cabinets, and there was a half bath, and I was like, oh, it had like trim on the bottom half of it, and I can't think of the word, wainscoting on the bottom half. And so I was like, okay, the upper half we can do like Amazon wallpaper. It's like a few $100 to buy it and have it installed. Right. Maybe even less. And my friends were like, you're doing way too much. Like, you need to play it safe. Like, you're doing way too much for a flip. And it was super basic wallpaper. And I was like, well, that was what I enjoyed. I enjoyed being able to pick out like the hinges, pick out the lights, figure out that like, oh my gosh, this little light's not going to work. We need to get a bigger one. I loved that. So to me, just because there was a blueprint, you know, set in place of like, this is how people flip, these are the selections you pick, I wasn't interested in that. So, and I remember even the first one, I did some things that people don't do, the way I finished the floors. And I did get some like adversity back on that, which I realized I was like, maybe I don't host my own open houses. But I mean, ultimately it sold and I enjoyed it so much. And so the next one I was like, well, what can I do more? Like, how can I push it more? And then I just took it until I got crazy and I was like, let's dial it back a little.
And you were like setting comp records. Like,
so actually this is interesting. That first house, I still hold the record for.
Yeah, that's insane.
It's
on your
insane.
First flip
and
too.
Yeah, comps should be beat in 30 days.
Right.
They just should. I mean, it was Petersburg, so it is what it is. But yeah,
I have looked at your projects and they're insanely awesome. Like, and so when we talk about like flipping houses, it's typically, you know, the gray paint, it's the white trim, it's the like stay as neutral as possible so it appeals to as many people as possible and then sell. Your houses are not like that at all.
Yeah.
Like, not even close. And in fact, like, you offer photo shoots in your houses before you sell them. Like, it is just insane to see some of the things that you've done, the unique design. Was there any projects that you pushed, like, maybe a little too far that you were a little nervous about?
Yeah, totally. So after my third project, I mean, everything just went straight to my head. That's the thing about me. I'm like, let's be humble. Let's be humble. No. I'm like, oh, I'm unstoppable. I could do anything. So I decided I'm going to do a circus house. I did red cabinets. I had a room with stripes in it, like, you know, playing off the tent vibes. I had acrobatic wallpaper. I had a monkey light. And it was very well done. Like, it was very tasteful, but it was it was so different. And so like I remember even I was selling it and like agents called and she's like, my clients they like this weird house. Like agents often don't realize that I've created all that and like, you know, I've spent months working on it or whatever.
They just think you're the listing
Yeah.
agent.
So, and even though I put it in the notes and stuff, but people don't read that. And so, yeah, they're like, you know, they're a little bit interesting and different, but they like it. I don't know why. Like she was kind of just like couldn't grasp it. And so, yeah, at that point, I was like, okay, we're not doing red cabinets again. Like, let's dial it back a little bit. But I had so much fun with it. And I always tell people I couldn't do this without the passion of the design behind it. I've tried recently to make a model where we just pick certain finishes on certain houses. And I redid the whole thing. So I'm like, I can't do it.
Yeah. How do you design these things to make sure that they're still good for the neighborhood and not just a piece of art, like, because they still need to sell, right? Like, and you can over design things for certain neighborhoods and areas and things like that. How do you make sure that your design is still a good fit? Like, how are you still so confident with sell?
Yeah, so I think for me, as long as the design can fit in the numbers, which you can do a lot with paint, you can get cheap wallpaper, you can find light fixtures that work. I don't think you can out design a neighborhood. I will say no matter how good a house looks, if the area isn't good, it's going to be harder to sell. Right. So that's what I've learned. Like I do try to stick to Richmond and Henrico now versus before I would go further out. And I'm a little bit more selective there. But yeah, and the other thing is I always like in creating these houses, I'm not creating a house for everyone. I know everyone who invests is like, I want as many people as possible. I know only one person can buy it. So I literally want that person to be a raving fan, which is what some of these people are. I do think sometimes it takes a little bit longer to find that person though. Yeah. So as long as the price makes up for that, it makes sense. But I know that not everyone wants to be on the market 30 days.
You know, that does make a lot of sense now that you say it, is like you can design something wildly unique and maybe 3 people are super, I mean, I think like it looks awesome, but you're talking about like buyers, like the actual buyers. Yeah. But it doesn't appeal to the mass market, but there's going to be a fraction of people that it really appeals to, and they're going to want to pay a lot of money for that because they will never find that anywhere else. Yeah. And so it makes sense that you hold all these comp records because people are never going to find a house like that unless they do it themselves, and then they would need to hire you to design it for that creativity.
Correct, yeah.
That's awesome. I have a buddy that flipped a house on the north side, and he learned the same lesson where like he was flipping a house. He has a very high-end residential GC company, and they do like $250,000 kitchens and, you know,
oh my
stuff.
Gosh.
Yeah. So that's when I say high end, it's like insanely high end. And so, but so he flipped a house and he used his same GC team to flip the house. And he was just like, they put just incredible things all throughout the house. And it was like a little Foursquare on like one of those north side streets. And then he went to list it, and of course, like it was probably like $150,000 overpriced. Nice. But fortunately, that was like right before COVID, and the market like rode up, and he rented it out at a good rent, and then was able to sell it for I think a higher price than he originally listed for because of the market appreciation. But it was like one of those where you can't just not out design but outbuild, you know, street's value.
So when I run comps, I always price myself at the highest. I will say I'm starting to not do that as much because I think the market's shifting a little bit, and if I have a really good product and I price it at a more average price, maybe I will get up multiple offers. That's my new strategy. I know everyone's been doing that for a while, but I used to just always price at the very highest, but I've never.
That's awesome.
I try not to go too crazy with how far. Like, I won't make up like, oh, I could sell it for $100K more. Right. There are some areas I think you could do that. I really want to get into the millions because I believe that it absolutely can work in that way.
Was there ever a design that you had in your mind where you're like, this is too far, I need to back it up a little bit? Or are you just like, no, it's not, like, just do it?
I mean, there's definitely sometimes I use a color that I'm like, I never want to see that color again, like ever. By the end of every project, I'm very much over it. I can't wait to get rid of it. And then when I come back to like destage it, I'm like, actually, this looks really good. Yeah. It's hard to step back and appreciate your own work. But no, I don't think something that I mean, there's just been times, I question myself a lot. I would say that.
Where did the creativity come from? Because your background was not like, or at least from what you've mentioned, was not like you used to paint and you used to play, write music and do all this artistic stuff. How in the world, because again, everyone who's listening to this needs to go to your website, which was it like KlineDesigns.co? We'll announce it later, but they need to go to your website and look at the projects because these are insanely awesome projects. Where does that come from? Like, what inspires that?
So I was creative. I was always creative. I don't think I mentioned that, but I did enjoy art. And my grandma was an artist.
Oh, cool.
And
awesome.
I would go to her house and she had all the paints in the world. And I'm messy, so I'd be getting stuff ever. And she's like, kind of freaked out by that. I just, I always thought like art doesn't make money. Like, how you go down the path where you're like, okay, I have to go to college. I have to do this. Right. So I took a couple art classes in high school. I took one actually after I dropped out of Ole Miss to like help off balance like the real courses. And that was probably the only one I showed up to.
Right. That's cool.
So yeah, that was painting and stuff. So I think I was always creative. I just didn't know what like my medium was. And I guess, my canvas is a house.
That makes sense then.
Yeah.
Because I wonder, like, yes, you can watch HGTV, but that doesn't mean you can do it. That doesn't mean you have the mind for it.
Yeah.
Because you can see all these awesome things and kind of try to rip it off, but they would not turn out how your houses turn out and the way they look. What about the construction piece? Like you mentioned, your father had done a lot of construction, but when you're in it and you're flipping houses, it's a bit different, right?
It's
like
so
you have to do it
different,
yourself.
yeah.
Where did you build a network around you? Who were you asking questions to, or were you just trusting your contractors?
Yeah, so a lot of trust in the contractors. I get stuff inspected afterwards. I did try to sub out a couple of properties and learned I can't stand that. I cannot stand it. I love going on site and like having a beer with the guys, or just like, I just love it. But I don't want to be dealing with like the true, like if I ask a question on something, as soon as like about piping, as soon as they start talking, I'm like, all right, no, why did I ask? Yeah. So I really wish, like I thought about getting my GC license and I'm glad I haven't pursued it because it's just not my thing.
But you found your team, like you
yeah,
found a good team that you trust.
I have a good team. And then just, checking them with inspections. And, I have to learn stuff to an extent, especially in the selling side and explaining things to buyers. Like I have to understand certain things. But it is interesting. I just built a house and like I am currently, it's about to close. And that is one of those things that I'm like, Betsy, you weren't like, I have to say that I'm the builder because I pulled all the permits, I did all the stuff. I actually truly don't know as much as a builder would know. Right. But the reason I did that is because I knew like the county was coming out to inspect it. The buyers had an inspection, like it's a new build. Like I just knew that there was enough checks in place that if I followed the steps, we could do it. But it is kind of crazy to think because like they emailed like asking who's the builder and I'm like, it's me.
Yeah.
Betsy Kline.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Has your contractor experience always been positive or have you had some adversity that you faced?
No. Oh my gosh, I forgot about this. Yeah, no. I think that is probably the hardest part of this thing. Even right now, I have a good team that, we're all going out to dinner tonight and everything, but I think it can always be better. And my fear in expanding my business is actually getting more contractors because I've had such bad experiences. And yeah, I've had someone take thousands of dollars. They went to jail. They actually went to jail for money laundering.
Wow.
I was always interested in that. Yeah, but apparently it doesn't work out. So, and I should have known his whole like arm was tatted with like get money.
Nice.
The signs were there. The Monopoly Man's on there. And after like, he went to prison, I was like Googling and you can find all that information very easily. There was like a track record. So I'm a very trusting person naturally and I have to be smarter. I have to assume that not everyone wants the best for me.
Right. Have you changed the way that you hire contractors now? I mean, now you have your team in place, right? So you probably have a little less of that.
We're about to have to start trying some new things in 2026. I'm terrified, but I'm just...
It's part of growth, right?
Yeah, I'm just going to get like a smaller project and go for it. And if it doesn't work out, fire them and go to the next person.
If it makes you feel any better, it was probably the 10th house that I was rehabbing with this same contractor that had done awesome on the first 9 houses. And he gutted a house that I'm not so sure it needed to be gutted, but he gutted it, and he tore the roof off. And I had paid him like a 25% down deposit. Wow. And so to do all this demo and stuff like that, get all his guys on. So he literally tore the roof off, tarped the roof, because we were going to pop the top, add a second level. So he tore the roof off and then tarped it. And he was like, all right, I'll be back tomorrow, and never came back on site.
You never heard from him again?
I heard from him because I was like, hit him up every other day and was just like, what's going on? And then the problem is every week he would come back out for like, he would call me and take a picture and show all of his guys are back out. They'd stay for like an hour and then go hit another project. So like no progress would be made. So meanwhile, it's like storming, like all these things, and the house is like getting mold all inside of it. And so,
and your guts, like, even though like you're being wronged in that situation, you're like, well, I know this person. I've done all these projects with them. Like, they're not gonna, like, And it's so crazy.
I had already paid him $40,000, and so he left. I had to get a new contractor in. He ghosted eventually, and I had to get a new contractor in. And then the new contractor was like, well, now I got to go back and like fix all this other stuff, and I got to see where we're starting. I got to get permit. I got to do all this stuff. And so it basically was the original scope plus I think $20,000 or $30,000. So I'd paid $40,000, and then I paid an additional like $20,000 or $30,000 on the back end. But somehow it's I bought it right, so it's still cash flowed and then appreciated in value. So, but it was a nightmare, and it was.
Well, that's what I think about, like when I say like I'm so glad my first deal went right. Like when I like losing $13,000 on my first deal, I couldn't have done it. Like I couldn't have done 100%. It. I wouldn't have known how to pivot and like get this person out of there. And I think too, like you learn so much in this business. Like I would have just assumed if someone takes thousands of dollars from you, like there's a legal system to get it back, right? But no, like it's not. It doesn't work like that. It's so it's interesting.
My very first deal was 45 days close to close as a burr. So closing on the purchase and closing on the refi. And it went smooth as can be, like no issues, but we were at a capital position where like if anything would have went wrong, I would have been out of the game. You know?
Right.
Like,
it's so, but I think there's something to say like about that determination. Like you're so laser focused versus like, you know, now like when I have like 5 or 6 projects, like something slips because I'm like, you know, juggling all these things and I'm confident, so I'm less worried about versus at the time you're like, if this doesn't work, like it's do or die.
How did you feel about like how do you manage your money now? Because coming from someone who had to struggle a good amount to get to where you are and to earn the money to be able to have this deal flow and some capital reserves and stuff like that, what have you learned about managing money in this business?
It's not for me. I'm not great at managing money, but I do hire it out. I think it's insanely, I don't want to say it's above my knowledge level. It makes sense. But like in my mind, if I get a check, I'm like, okay, cool, we can spend this. And the reality of this business is like, you have to think about the next 6 months. You have, you know, your monthly business expenses. You have money that you need on other projects. And it's so amazing to me how quickly like the bank accounts go from hundreds of thousands just right back down to like, okay, we have 5K. When's the next closing? It just like the money goes in and out like crazy. If I didn't have someone else helping me manage that, it wouldn't be good, which I kind of experienced that once I started to scale. Like I was like I just didn't know how to account for the future basically.
Does that look like are you partnering with this person, or are you like outsourcing to like a bookkeeper or something like that?
It's my dad. I brought him in.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So he in the beginning like helped with like creating like a spreadsheet, like literally just a spreadsheet where then I would go in and track all my expenses. And it was like around the end of year 1, and I was like, I think like I need to bring in like, I think it's called a fractional CFO. And he was like worried that like I was gonna like sell my business or like do something. And so he was like, gave me a proposition and was like, here's what I'll handle, here's what I won't handle, this is what I want for it. And I was like, of course, it's my dad. Like, so
that's awesome.
Yeah. And there's been times that, you know, we think differently. I'm such a risk taker, and he's so conservative. And I'm like, what do you mean we can't touch that money? Like, so we've had to, you know, go back and forth on that. But at the end of the day, there's, you know, no one else that I would want to be paying.
That sounds like an awesome partnership, quite frankly. I mean, as long as you guys can resolve whatever disagreement you have, but like two partners that think the same, one of them is unnecessary, right? And so I've needed people to slow me down in business a lot, like, because I'm not analytical. I don't want to look at numbers. I just want to make decisions, move forward, and do it as fast as I can, but also like with some caution, but very fast. And I've had business partners that are like, hey, let's think about this. Let's hey, pump the brakes a little bit. I'm like, I shouldn't have even let you know I was doing this.
Exactly.
But at the same time, they bring on, I was like, all right, well, you got a point. I'll wait another 3. I'll think about it overnight or something like that. So
it's so interesting. I've never heard that quote. If you have two of the same person, one's useless. Because I'm always, it's like when I'm trying to convince someone of something, then I'm like, oh, if I just had someone exactly like me, it would be the best thing ever. Yeah. But it would get out of hand, and I can see that. Yeah,
you need like almost everyone on this team has different skill sets than I do, right?
Yeah.
And that's the point, right? There are people that are way better at finance, there are people way better at operations, way better at property management, way better at all these things that bring tons of experience to the team that I couldn't bring, right?
Yeah.
And because if they brought the same thing, I would just be paying them unnecessarily. So it's good to have those people that think differently, provide different perspectives, or have different strengths, because then you can grow your team, just absolutely dominate.
Yeah.
But you won't always agree with them, and that's the hard part. But that's also why there's a structure in place, right? Like, you own the company, you own the projects, like you're in charge, and so you take their feedback, their insight, and you try to stay open-minded and learn from it as much as you can. But ultimately, you make the decision, right?
Yeah, correct, exactly.
Yeah, you decide your risk. You build an awesome brand. You have a cool brand. Again, like your name, again, to me, I know there's a story and struggle behind it, but to me, your name just popped up on the radar. And when it popped up, it was like, who is this girl? Like, what is she doing? How does everyone know her? And why is everything that you do so, I guess bold is the right word, or at least in my vocabulary. What does your brand and the community that you've built around you mean to you, and what does it do for you?
So I have always been like a rule breaker, like going against the grain. So I think I really enjoyed the fact that my designs kind of took off, and I enjoy like using that to see how I can kind of make impact. And like part of my impact is wanting to add color to things, wanting to show other people that you don't have to like, and maybe some people enjoy. I do think that there's a great business model for people who have, this is the LVP package, this is the wall color package, this is the hinges we use. But then I think there's some people who want to like paint a room a certain color and they're just like scared. And so I think I want to show people that you can use design and you can actually use it to make more money. And if that is what you enjoy, like go for it. Don't hold back on it. So that's, I think, part of the message that I want to get out.
Yeah, that's got to help you. I mean, it completely sets you apart from what almost everyone else is doing. Like, I've seen some other people do some pretty bold stuff, but like you doing it consistently. And again, like it wasn't until this conversation that I really understood why that sets the record, like comp records and stuff for sales. But to me, it's very obvious now that like they're not going to find anything else like that, and so they better pay for it while they can. That's so cool that you're doing that. And you had mentioned earlier that you want to start getting into like the $1 million houses, like the larger houses. You have had a house sell for over $1 million, and it was a record on that street, right? It was the first time that had ever happened on a major street in Richmond. And you got recognized by the New York Times from that. What was that like? Like, walk me through that whole scenario.
Well, I didn't realize when the New York Times called that it was like a worldwide publication. Like, obviously at first I thought it was a scam. It was really surreal. It was just like a testament to what I'm doing is real. I know that there was 3 houses selected in the United States in that price point for that week in this article. But I know that like they obviously went through the images. That's what gets people excited. So it was honestly just really cool. And I think too, like I wanted to say something too on breaking records and stuff, because you can look at it 2 ways. For me, I think it's so important for neighbors, for investors, for builders. And on this particular one, Patterson Ave, this was the first house to ever sell over $1 million. But also the buyers, it appraised twice for over the price they bought it at. So like they're in a great position too. And that every house that I sell always appraises unless it's, cash. So like also the people who are buying them are getting great deals too. So I don't ever want people to think I'm just trying to push as many dollars as I can. I think the bigger impact is that now there's people like Kava, like people who do big stuff that build on that street that can now sell and, you know, for over $1 million. I just think it's cool.
Yeah. And I think the houses sell for what the market wants to buy, right? Like people don't have to buy those houses if they're done. They are so well done that people want to pay the money for these houses. And so I think that's cool. Like to me, nothing about that means that you just are trying to get the highest amount of money that you possibly can. It means that you're creating a product that people want to have. They want to pay for it. You had just listed that just like a normal house and then heard from the New York Times, or was there any like? They
just have a weekly article. They emailed the agent and they wanted to interview us. And it's so funny. Like they interviewed us for 10 minutes. I was like so nervous. I mean, I was probably the quietest I've ever been. I mean, they're asking like, what's your inspiration? I'm like, oh, you know, like I just, but they used, the article itself was actually like, AI could have wrote it better. It had nothing, there was no quotes, nothing to do with me, it was just about the house. And it was literally like, you walk inside and there's a living room. You go upstairs and you see 4 bedrooms. It was super boring, but the fact that I was in the New York Times is the cool part.
It's still pretty cool, yeah.
And for like 2 weeks, like on Sunday, I'm like, I got to go get the paper because I was trying to figure out when it was coming out.
Was there any pressure after that, or was it just like, cool, let me keep doing my thing?
Oh, no. Now I'm like, I need to be in more publications.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I put a lot of pressure on myself to continue. I'm always trying to do the next thing. I do get a little irritated with myself sometimes because I'm like, we can't reinvent every, 3 months. But I feel a lot of pressure to keep my audience engaged, to, make sure I'm doing bigger things. And I do feel like after doing Patterson, I enjoyed being out there so much, getting that attention. And I'm like, if I just go back to like $300,000 single family houses, it's not going to make the impact that this did. So yes, I feel like I have to do bigger things now.
Yeah, as long as you're still happy with it, because you don't. With what you're doing is in my opinion so awesome that you don't want to start be driven by the people who follow you to like feel like you need, because like I've heard people say that, like really wealthy people say that the saddest day in their life is the day they bought a Ferrari. And it's because like now they've done it, and it's like they need to do more now to impress the people that know they're wealthy and everything like that. And so, not that this is about wealth, but it's basically like, if you have to keep achieving higher level things, then you're never really going to be happy with where you're at. And where you're at right now, I mean, if you could look forward 5 years ago and see where you're at right now, it's freaking awesome. It's incredible.
I do think about that a lot, and I worry about that because like Patterson, I threw this great investor night, and it was like, 100 people, and it's like you get these highs, and then it's like it comes with like the next day, like I'm just like, what is life? And so
that's exactly
I think about it all the time, and I imagine like, people who are famous, they get these big awards, and then they just go back, and it's like, okay, now what? And so I do pay attention to that because it can be, similar to drugs and alcohol, its own high. And I don't want to only enjoy those moments. Yeah,
there was I read this actually, it was like yesterday, and it made me remember like the Ferrari quote. I know another guy who sold his biggest deal ever. It was tens of millions of dollars. And he said that was like he was lost and depressed right after that happened.
Because your body doesn't know how to calibrate.
Recalibrate.
Yeah, because it's like it's such a rush.
Right.
Naturally, it's going to go down.
There was it might have been John Elway, but no one should quote me on that. But there was some like quote from like an older retired quarterback. I don't know if it was John Elway, but anyway, it was a famous older retired quarterback. I saw the quote like yesterday. It said he was the most depressed in his life right after he won the Super Bowl. And it was like, it's insane when you hear these quotes and hear these successful people actually come out and start talking about this.
Yeah, what are you going to do next?
And so if you're always, and I struggle with this too, which is why I'm kind of like spending some time on it because I'm still trying to figure it out. But like, when is it enough, and when are you going to be happy? And I think we all need to keep some sort of perspective that as we get more and more successful in life, we need to kind of like take stock at that, and then do like another example is I have a really ambitious, driven team at Peak.
Yeah.
And if I were to tell them that I'm happy with where Peak is now, they probably would want to go work somewhere else, so they just wouldn't be as excited or as ambitious or thrilled to be with this company. And so that can be a dangerous place for business owners, because now like you feel this pressure that you have to get so much larger and you're driven by other people's goals and visions and things like that. Now, fortunately, we have a vision to get larger and do more, but it's like one of those things where like I think we have to remember to be driven by our own vision, and things like being in the New York Times and stuff like that, and having all the success could easily lead you to for what you have now to not be enough, and only be happy if you have more stuff, you know?
Yeah. But, no, I mean, I had a conversation with my last broker, and I was like, I'm just bored. Like, I always, feel like I need more, so.
But I also think, like, if you need more, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, because the ambition to go out and do multifamily, do development, do what other projects, like there's absolutely nothing wrong with that if that's driven by you, you know?
Yeah,
what I mean?
that makes sense. I get what you're saying.
So and you had mentioned that you wanted to get into some of that stuff, which is, in my opinion, awesome. I'm trying to get more in the multifamily world as well. You had mentioned, I think, motels, and you had mentioned development, you had mentioned multifamily. What does that transition look like? What are you working on now?
So I'm basically back to the beginning, because all I know is flips. So I feel so lost, but I'm trying to get into commercial. I just had a conversation with my friend Carlos, and he was like, just start putting out disrespectful offers, put out LOIs and see what sticks. And it makes sense, because like we talked about earlier, you know, that's what I was doing in the beginning. I was like, right, take it or leave it. This is what I have.
Yep.
So, it's really relearning everything. I'm looking at different things right now. I'm just trying to learn, because I'm looking at like churches that could be developed. I'm looking at land that could be built on. I'm looking at a motel. I'm trying to figure out the financing. I'm trying to figure out the construction of it. And then, you know, how long will I have it? What's the exit strategy? Right. So I'm just like, I guess any time this week we should be putting out LOIs. I'm just trying to learn. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And that, so I've
learn
heard,
by doing.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've heard that, you know, commercial is the same, just more zeros. It's
yes,
the same strategy.
Everyone says that.
But then when you get into like
so
converting
daunting.
a church to like a multifamily is a bit like, that's a little, you know, but
yeah.
If you have the right team in place, I mean, you started just like getting some people together and doing work, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's similar with a little bit more, like, again, some more zeros behind it, and you have all the right people in your network from what I can tell. But like Brandon Lindsay has been on this podcast. He's a great resource. Daniel Clayman, an excellent resource. And there's a handful of other people that you know. But to help go in that direction, I also. What is the? Are you looking at a specific motel? You don't have to say that address or anything.
I am.
Yeah, and then, awesome. So, is it in Central Virginia area?
It's 44 minutes from my house. It's right near the Williamsburg outlets, so it would be perfect. I could be out down there all the time.
Are you familiar with Motel Rochambeau?
Oh, I thought you were going to say the one. I'm like, not the one I'm looking at.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. So my friend who was on this podcast previously, his name is Lyle Chavone.
Okay.
You should listen to that podcast if you haven't. But he talks about Motel Rochambeau, and it was his first entry into motels, and everyone said he was an idiot and he was crazy or whatever. And he went in and basically like from the slab up, like redesigned it and made it this beautiful, awesome like boutique motel in Williamsburg.
That's what I want to do.
It's in Williamsburg.
It's in Williamsburg. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And he's got stuff in Ashley. He's got stuff all over. But he jumped into that from multifamily. But he's a really good person to have in your network anyway.
Okay. Amazing.
But especially if you want to go into like the motel, he probably is someone who would like meet you on site and walk you through and talk through the project, show you design, talk about the numbers and things like that. So
okay, cool. Because I have the vision, I have all the ideas, but it is. I mean, it's a huge.
Yeah.
It's a huge thing to take on. It's like 128 rooms.
And the financing is wildly different from what I learned from him talking about it too. Is like the financing for a motel is wildly different than any other, like than multifamily, than short-term rentals, than anything else. Just it's completely different.
Okay. I'll definitely need to talk to him. Thank you.
Cool. Well, I'll make a connection, but that's cool. What, and you're thinking about multifamily too, just as far as like, are you gonna obviously I would assume, is your goal to buy multifamily, do something crazy with it and flip it, or hold it as an investor?
My goal is for it to keep something.
Cool.
Everything I've done, I have sold. I've done all the staging myself. It's a ton of work, and to rip it all out 30 days later doesn't make sense. So I'm trying to get out of staging for flips. I'm still going to do flips because it's the cash flow. But yes, I do want to do something that I can design, whether it's like, you know, we have commercial spaces downstairs and residential upstairs. Awesome. Or like the motel, that would be a ton of design work. And it would last, you know, people in the community can go see it and stay there.
Have you considered short-term rentals?
Yes, actually I have considered that too. I just skipped that because now I'm so excited for the development stage.
Awesome.
But yes, it is a consideration.
That's awesome.
But now I'm like not as excited about that thought.
That's awesome. What advice would you give for someone who's in a really tough place, maybe doesn't have any money, is discouraged, is struggling with whatever they're struggling with? What do you think is some small action that they could take to start on a similar journey or get into real estate investing?
Yeah, so honestly, if depending how low you are at that spot, start with watching videos online. That's the easiest. You don't even have to get out of bed. And then I think the next most important step is just going on like Facebook or texting a friend and figuring out a local meetup, because hearing other people in your community's stories was the game changer for me. And we are so lucky, especially in Richmond, like everyone wants to help each other. Everyone's like, here's the money, here's this person, here's that person. So even if the first one you sit there and don't speak to anyone, like people are coming up to you either way. But yeah, so go to those meetups. Nobody cares if you're like, yeah, dude, I have negative $4 in my account. Like so do some of us, you know what I mean? So yeah, go to a meetup is the next thing I would say. And just don't get stuck in analysis paralysis, because I've never been stuck there, but I know people who do, and they find all the reasons it won't work. What if it did work though? Look at that reason is what I think.
That is perfect advice. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. Like, start watching videos, start learning about it, start building relationships, get out the house and build relationships in person, and then take the first step. Like, don't just stop and think about it and do all this analytics and stuff like that. Take the first step. How can people find you?
So I'm most active on Instagram, which also gets shared to Facebook. My Instagram handle is at Betsy Kline, BetsyKline, _ Realty Design. We also have another page called at Kline Design Homes. That's more the design stuff. So my amazing project coordinator Alex runs that. She'll, post stuff when she's out on job sites and then share some design highlights. And then we also have a website. I'm curious where you found my website, because I get
I've seen KlineDesigns.co.
Okay. Right. Yeah, we'll go with that. Alex did amazing building it. We're working on getting it in my bio. So it does look really good. I just need to get it out there to the
I don't
world.
know where I found it either. It might have been through
I'm
like
glad
a social.
You found it. I might have it somewhere.
It was through, and it's an awesome site. Like I was looking through I was kind of getting fired up reading it, because you're like,
we worked.
We
did work hard on it, and then it kind of, like anything, I just forgot about it. So I need to put it back out there. But yeah, go there. We are going to start each month launching design spots. We're going to start with a maximum of 3, just as time allows. But because I have Alex, I am able to leverage that and have her help. We've done it a few times. It's been really successful. So
explain what that is.
Look out for that. So we can help either do mood boards for rooms. We can do, that would be the smallest starting point, anywhere up to a full house. So we have an investor right now who is doing a really cool flip, and he wants us to pick out everything for the whole house. So we really can customize it to you. And then we'll put out certain offerings to kind of get people thinking like, hey, we could redo this, we could redo that. So the only thing I'm not sure about is I'm not really sure that I would want to run construction for other people.
Right.
I think I would want them to handle that.
Yeah, there's plenty of other people for that too. That you can get
like we will give you the selections, the design. We do all the furniture links, all the hardware links. So you just literally have to click and order. And if you're like, hey, this one's too expensive, or we want a different this, we'll switch it out.
What about did you start a meetup? You have a meetup now?
Oh yeah. So we have monthly investor meetups, third Thursdays. We have the 4th one coming up next week, December 18th. It's actually at Dave and Amanda Siebert's listing. They work with a developer. I believe they found the land, and they're super savvy in development. So it'll just be cool to hear from them as well.
Do you typically have those at like different investors' projects, if not your own?
So the goal is to have them as my own as much as I can, but anytime that, which has already been a few times now, that I don't have a project available, we will host it elsewhere. I think it's important to hear from other people. Obviously, if I have the chance to show off my own work, I'm going to.
Right, for sure. And people should see it. It's awesome.
We've had so that's where I think we have the best turnouts, is just because it's exciting to. Right. We usually open it up to this before it goes on the market too.
And I think I saw the food that was at that event.
Yeah.
Just a crazy spread.
Yeah, we actually did that spread. Alex and I did that spread ourselves, and that was
ridiculous.
Yeah. We had a private chef at one, but that was also at my personal house, so that was kind of like a really fancy one. We're working on kind of figuring out. Right now we're testing different things. In the future we might have like a solid plan of like every single time it's this, but probably not, knowing me, because I like to mix it up.
Can people find out more about your meetups just by following you on social media? Like, do you promote it on there?
On social media we promote it, and always just DM me and I'll send you the invite with the address.
Awesome. Cool. Any final thoughts?
This was so fun. I feel like I talked a lot.
That's the point.
We want to hear from you. Yeah, I know. I need to get to know you more though. I had fun.
No, I'm not nearly as interesting. That is it's been
true.
Really awesome. Just getting to know your story, and I'm happy that we finally met in person. I've definitely been kind of tracking some of the stuff you've been doing the past few months. I'm rooting for you. Like, I'm going to be really excited to see future projects and what you get into, especially if you start doing motels and multifamily and everything. But thank you so much for sharing your mindset and sharing some of the adversity that you've been through. I know a lot of people can listen to that and either relate or kind of compare to what they're going through and then learn how to get out of some things. So thanks for coming on the podcast. It was great speaking with you.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time.